So we've got to get our Peep sight in there. So first of all, on Peep size, your Peep size is going to come down to quite a few factors. The things that are going to impact what Peep diameter you need are going to be the size of your scope housing. Some sites have a really big housing, some have a really small housing, and you want a Peep which perfectly halos the outside of that. You don't want it to be too big and you don't want it to be too small. You need to be able to see your whole site, but just barely. This is also going to be impacted by your draw length. If you're a short draw length guy, obviously your eye is going to be a lot closer to your site, so that's going to change what it looks like in your field of view. If you have a really short axle to axle, you're going to have a steep string angle at full draw. Your Peep is going to be further away from your eye. So the best thing to do is get a few sizes. They're really cheap, and just play around with them. I find that the 3/16 is perfect for me. But I would, if I were you, I would try a 3/16 and a 1/4 inch to start out. But that's definitely a detail that you can iron out later. The big thing is if you have a Peep from your old bow, just pull it off, pop it on the new one. And if you realize that it's too small or too big, you can change that down the road fairly easily. So on your string, you're still gonna have this little extra piece of bowstring material, which is separating your string perfectly in half. This is where it's gonna come in. So what you'll do once you have your Peep picked out, or just using your old one like I am, you're gonna press your bow, not too much, just until that you have a little bit of slack in that string. And using that, you're gonna pop your string apart. So what I'll do is, instead of pulling this all the way out, I'll actually just move it up, because if I lose this split, I don't want to lose the exact half point of my string. What you can do there is, if you have one of these tools, this is a string splitter, it just goes in like that and holds it open for you. Or you can just do it with your fingers, and you'll put your Peep in. Now your Peep is going to have a couple of diagonal slots in it. It's not going to matter too much which way you put your Peep, if it's backwards or not yet, because alignment is going to come later. But we're just going to get your Peep in there between the strings, and then depress your bow. What I'll do to get a rough position of where this needs to go is, a pretty average Peep height is about 6.5 to 7 inches. So just from, roughly the middle of your D-loop, I'll just measure out 6.5 inches, and I'll just put the Peep there. I mean, this is really rough, because now I'm going to show you how we actually get this thing set up. So now we need to get your Peep height set up. Make sure you have your release that you're going to be shooting this bow with on, because that's going to impact your anchor points. And at this point, don't worry about the fact that your Peep is probably off to the side or backwards or misaligned. I'm not going to do it on camera, because when you're doing this, you should always be doing it aiming at a safe direction and a target with an arrow in your bow. But what you're going to do is close your eyes, and you're going to make a perfect draw. And settle in with your eyes closed. Keep your finger behind that trigger, because you're not trying to shoot. Settle in, find your anchor points, tip of the nose in the string, corner of the mouth in the string, and open your eye and see where your Peep needs to go. It's going to be very clear in relation to your sight whether or not that Peep needs to go up or down. And like I said, don't worry if your Peep is completely backwards or sideways and you can't actually see through it. You'll be able to tell where it needs to go in order for it to be perfectly in line with your sight. So if it needs to go up or down, adjust it, do the same thing, close your eyes again, settle in, open up, and just keep adjusting it until it's absolutely perfect. You don't want to be in a position where you draw your bow and you're adjusting your anchors in your face to line up your Peep with your sight. You want the Peep to be in the perfect position for you, not you have to move into the perfect position for your Peep. So keep repeating it until you have it in the perfect position. So we're going to start out here by cutting off a good amount of serving thread. I use probably about 2 feet is what I'm cutting off here. Always better to have a little extra. Okay, so what you're going to do is, this would be the top of my bow. This is where my arrow rest is. This is my top cam. I'm going to take my serving thread, put it through the bottom on that top split, and I'll go right up to where the string starts to come back together, because we're going to slide it forwards in a bit here. So then I will get the serving between the two halves of the string, and then coming towards me and behind this tag end, I'm going to start wrapping. First wrap just goes behind that tag end, and then the next ones are going to go over top of it. cinching it down. And I'm gonna do this, 5, 6, 7 times, and then pull it tight. This is when you can slide it forwards. Pull on your tag end to tighten it up. That's when you can slide it forward so that your peep tie end isn't 3 inches long. So I'll get 5 or 6 or 7 wraps depending on the bow. Something just kind of depends on how narrow my string angle is here. And then I will take this tag end and fold it back and do another 5 or 6 wraps. These ones I want to do a little bit tighter because it's harder to cinch them up at the end. 4, 5, I'm going to probably do 6 here, like that. Okay, so what we have here is I think 7 wraps over top that tag end, and then we fold the tag end back and do another 6 wraps. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to wrap only up one side of the split here. So going through the split, first one I like to always cinch right up against the rest of them. Do another, and then these I just evenly space out. There's no rule to this. I just like to space them out about like that, and you just do this until you hit that peep. And with these, I'm pulling every one tight and holding it with my finger. Okay, and now once I get to the peep, there's no more room on this side to do one, so I'm gonna skip over the peep, do one on that side, and I'm gonna pull it so that that loop is right in between the peep and the string, and it'll hold there. Right there. Now it's dead in the middle. I can let go of it. From here, I'll do 2 or 3 really tight wraps all the way around the peep. 3 usually. And I'll finish there. I'll finish with the serving going downward on the opposite side of me. Then we're going to take the tag end again, back through this side, through the bottom. Apologies if my hand is covering anything here. And like we did on this side where we pull it tight so that the serving is being held between the peep and the string, we're going to do that now on this side. So now we're going to work our way up the opposite side of the string. Just opposite now, so we're going to go through the bottom. Now I never count this out, but I just look and try to make it roughly the same amount of loops as on the other side, just so it looks even. And then what I'll do is once I feel like I have enough, I'm going to go around both now really tight, because you're going to want to try to cinch that string together. And this is a big part of what's going to hold that peep in place. Do 5 or 6 wraps. And now we're going to finish the serving. This is a really important thing to know. Anytime you're finishing off any serving on your bow, this is how it's finished. So starting with it pointing up and on this side towards me of the string, we're going to make a loop going behind as though you're wrapping it again, but you're going to hold that loop, okay? So now the loose end is on the back side of the string. Holding tension so that this doesn't come loose, I'm going to wrap this on the inside of that loop 5 or 6 times. Like that, okay? I'm going to finish with this tag end coming on the back side of the loop. And I'm going to fold it down over the back end right here of where that loop begins. So now what you can do is you wrap this loop until you run out of loops here. You're basically transferring those loops. Do this really tight. And once you run out of those loops, you take this tag end, and I did it really tight, pull it through, cinch it up, and boom, that is bulletproof. It will not go anywhere. So then it's just simply a matter of taking your lighter, lighting off those ends, and being careful, because I've seen people pop their strings with the lighter, flatten them out, and you're done. So once you tie in your Peep, you're gonna notice that it's tied in, but it's completely off, like it's off to the side or backwards and you can't see through it. So what I recommend at this point is take a few shots. It'll help settle out your string. Then what we're gonna do is you need to have your bow in a press to do this alignment. If your Peep is way off in alignment, it needs to go more than 90 degrees, you're going to make an adjustment on the top cam. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna pull off your string, holding it tight. I don't wanna do it here on my bow because my bow is perfect, but you're gonna pull it off and you're gonna add a half twist, which would bring the Peep whichever way you can tell it needs to go to be perfectly aligned, and you're gonna put your string back on. Now it may or may not look lined up after you put your string back on. This is because your string is not settled in the cam tracks. So again, I wanna take a shot or two, settle it out and see, now is my Peep aligned or not. If it isn't, make another adjustment. Now, at some point, you're going to make an adjustment that overcorrects. If that happens, you're going to then use the bottom cam side of the string to make adjustments. The top cam is for your coarse adjustments, we'll say, and your bottom cam is for fine adjustments. The reason it works like this is because your Peep is closer to the top cam. So when you add a half a twist, that twist has a greater impact on this Peep just because of where it sits in relation to where you're twisting. When you do it on the bottom, there's a much more string length for that twist to be distributed throughout, and you end up with a finer adjustment. So it's definitely a bit of a trial and error process, but the big key here is that you get your Peep perfectly lined up when you're at full draw, you tie it in, and then you do your alignment. This is how I've set up dozens and dozens of bows over the years, and it's a perfect method.